All right, folks. So a bunch of you have asked me to check out this video by Laura Fayer, and apparently it's the future of Xbox. I mean, I think the path that Xbox is going is pretty clear, and I know a bunch of people on X, even this morning, are actually, talking about Xbox and the path. It's really weird how the majority of the Xbox fans are totally okay with where Xbox is going. They've got a new console coming, the ecosystem is expanding, they're providing you with more ways to play. But the only people that seem to be concerned or worried are PlayStation fans in general, those that hate Xbox, and of course your Tin Dog, your Warhammer Dave, and Jamie's Act trying to think that we're all panicking. I mean, who's panicking? At the end of the day, these people are constantly asking how Microsoft is going to make money. And here's a newsflash: I don't care how $1 trillion company is going to make money. They are going to make money no matter what happens, whether it's through innovation, through data, through AI, through layoffs. They're going to make money. Don't worry about Microsoft. They aren't exactly the most nicest corporation out there. They haven't got there for being nice. They are ruthless and they will make money. Their bottom line will always be protected. And considering they are the richest company in the world, why these people are out really concerned about their financials is unknown. But you know what? Idiots will be idiots. And obviously, in the case of one particular person, PlayStation is no longer providing this person with anything. So now they're moving over to Nintendo. I mean, they're flip flop between Nintendo and PlayStation so much. I don't even know where their allegiance lies anymore. But anyway, let's get back to the video, the future of Xbox. Let's check it out, see what it's all about, and have a listen, right? And let's react.
If you watch the latest Xbox showcase, you can see that Xbox has finally landed on a strategy, a plan for the future of Xbox. It's the Xbox Anywhere plan. They are betting the entire business on Game Pass and leaving the hardware innovation to their partners at Asus. This wasn't surprising. Hardware is expensive to make. It's much easier to slap an Xbox sticker on an existing piece of hardware and call it a day. It requires very little effort in comparison. And if you don't care about console sales or exclusive games anymore, why bother innovating in hardware? I'll admit, it's a great message for gamers. Who doesn't want to play their games with their family and friends on any device and any platform? But that's all it is. It's marketing. It's style, not substance. Just because you say something, it doesn't mean that you can do it. And it also doesn't mean that you won't change your mind.
That's not entirely true. And for someone who is as intelligent as Laura, at the end of the day, she just said it herself. They're betting the whole farm on Game Pass. And you can play Game Pass on these devices. So how you're turning around and saying that it's not entirely true, I don't get it. So I mean, she said it in her opening statement that they're betting the whole house on Play Anywhere and Game Pass. And if it's Play Anywhere, it means it will play on your handheld. Because if you buy it on Xbox, it will work on your PC device. So where's the problem here? I mean, she's already contradicted herself within 1 minute of this video, which is strange for her because she's genuinely really good at what she does. I actually have a lot of respect for her. Her insights are actually genuinely on point, but on this occasion, I actually think she's way off.
After all, Xbox has been pivoting a lot lately.
Yep, that's
Okay, that's true. And let me just fix this camera. And that's true, right? Because at the end of the day, we've been saying that Microsoft just has to pick a lane. They just need to pick a lane and stick to it. Stop changing every 5 minutes. And that's been one of their biggest problems as they've tried to find a position where they can finally say, yes, this is what we're going with. But it does seem like they've now found that. So I don't think talking about pivoting anymore is really relevant. Now, if they do it again, then sure, the cat's out of the bag. But right now, talking about pivoting again, considering they've just pretty much invested everything into this through their showcase, through their marketing, through their This Is an Xbox campaign. They've 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 shown you that they've picked a lane now and they're full steam ahead. So again, I disagree with that as well.
It's me. And you're probably wondering how I ended up here. Well, it's pretty standard.
Remember when they talked about the importance of high quality games, but then shut down the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush? What about Game Pass? One of the defining features was day one games, and now there are tiers that don't offer the feature at all. Last year, Phil expressed how $70 pricing could feel manipulative to gamers, and now he's on board with charging $80 for Outer Worlds 2.
See, that I agree with. The Game Pass aspect, the Game Pass standard is just silly. I know what Microsoft was trying to do there, and she could have actually gone into this if she actually wanted to be fair, but clearly there was, I'm guessing there's some form of agenda to get this video out there. But if she wanted to be fair, she would have actually stated that the reason why they've added in standard is to create a middle tier. So you've got the entry with core, you've got the standard in the middle, and then you've got ultimate for the top end. So all three tiers are covered. I agree with her 100% that standard goes against everything that Microsoft said when it came to Game Pass day and date. And that is true. That is factually true. And I disagree that, and I agree that standard should never exist. I think it's a bogus thing. It should just be core and ultimate, and that's it. There shouldn't be no middle ground. Because at the end of the day, if there's no middle ground, you're either going to buy ultimate or you're going to go and buy your games. It's really that simple. So you give people a choice. But now you're kind of trying to muddy that water and make it a little gray and kind of push them onto the subscription by offering a cheaper model. But that cheaper model doesn't actually offer, the same services as the ultimate does. And when you're looking at standard, it's even worse than the PC one, which is at $10 at the moment, $12, which offers day and date as well. So I think she could have been a little more fair there by explaining it, but who knows? Maybe she will in a little bit.
The cost may be high. One day, I know you'll be mine.
Also, the $80 price tag was it's a thing. I don't think Outer Worlds in any way, shape, or form is worth $80. However, this seems to only apply to the US. In the UK, it is still $69.99. So in Europe, it retained the same normal pricing as they have for games currently. So the $80 price tag is only in the US. And I appreciate she's in the US. So she's only going to look at the US pricing. But it would have been a little more fairer to look at other pricing as well. But I guess she assumed, at least that's what I'm going to, give her the benefit of doubt, that it was a global pricing, but it is not a global pricing. It is just for the US. And that does raise questions as to why, but I can't answer that question.
From my perspective, the Xbox strategy has been chaotic, so it's hard to say exactly what they'll do next. But assuming they stick with Xbox Anywhere, it's really left me wondering, will the latest announcement drive more gamers to Game Pass? Will they be able to convince gamers that the Xbox ROG Ally is a good idea? And what is going to happen with the hardware and software teams that aren't delivering right now in the Xbox team? Are they going to get caught up in the layoffs that Microsoft just announced are coming?
Most likely. That's the honest truth. At the end of the day, it's already clear of what Microsoft is doing. They're making the next OS Windows 11. It's going to be a watered down. You're going to have, it seems 2 versions of Windows running on there. You can either boot into full Windows or a watered down Windows, like a big picture mode. That's going to pretty much be game mode on PCs. So the current OS team just has no real need. I mean, the Surface team was building the next Xbox anyway, so the original teams that were building the previous Xboxes were moved off anyway or reintegrated somewhere else. So I suspect the same thing is going to happen here. And do you know what? It's business. I know these people are constantly crying about layoffs, but at the end of the day, layoffs happen and it's business. People need to stop the outrage.
For context, let's talk about why Xbox started and how it played into the strengths of Microsoft. I was working in Microsoft Game Studios on Crimson Skies when the console talks started. At that point, Microsoft dominated the office, but Sony owned the living room and was taking a serious bite out of the PC gaming market. When Xbox launched, there were at least 125 million PlayStations available, and there was a reason for that. Gamers could just plug in the PlayStation and the games worked. They didn't have to worry about why that piece of software on their Windows system didn't play nice with the other piece of software and why their video card wasn't working or that they needed an updated driver. It was simple.
And the one thing that she missed, which is probably the most important aspect out of all of that, right? You can bypass all of that. And again, she missed a clear point here. Price. PlayStation at the time was way cheaper than buying a PC, right? You had to have your monitor. I don't think there was really any way to plug your TV, your PCs into your TV back then. So, unless you had a really expensive TV that maybe could go through, maybe there was a VGA port back then. I can't really remember. It's a long time ago. We're talking, 2000, 2001. But when you're looking at it, consoles were just built cheaper. That was the attractive factor of a console over PC. And again, something that she's admitted again, which I think, in my opinion, personally, and to many gamers out there, is the one that trumps it all. Price is key. And, just like I've said multiple times, this new Xbox that's coming out, if it's not priced correctly, it's going to flop hard. If they price it at 1,000, 1,200, it's just not going to do very well. But if they price it at like 700, 800, it has a chance. And I expect the next generation consoles, be it PlayStation or Xbox, to be around that price.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
This was hilarious, by the way.
Of course, at that time, game developers actually listened to their customers and they would follow them. With all of these gamers going to PlayStation, game developers started trying to climb the hill of learning the PlayStation. And if they could do that, then they didn't have to worry after they made their game about testing all of those hardware and software compatibility issues that plagued the Windows ecosystem. It just worked. Microsoft could see this threat, so they jumped in and did what Microsoft does best. They took over an existing market by leveraging their strengths. They already had a fine-tuned system of execution at scale. They knew how to ship product, and they knew how to scale their system across a large team. Luckily, Microsoft had already built a game developer foundation with Microsoft Windows and DirectX. The message for Xbox was simple. With a hard drive, you could build your game once on Xbox or Windows, and it would just work. Of course, the problem was Windows was bloated. So without telling Bill Gates, the Xbox team removed the bloat and made a light version to power the box.
I start to try to argue for this, why we can't have the normal version of Windows. Bill doesn't want any of it. He doesn't want to hear it. He yells at me, shuts me down.
And what's interesting all these years later is that we are now having that same idea integrated into the next generation Xbox. They're removing all the bloat from Windows 11 and giving you a very watered down version of Windows that is only going to have the essential APIs and plugins to basically run the games. It's really amusing how we've actually come full circle here.
We did everything we could to make the platform as attractive for game developers as possible. We even hired 50 game makers into the Xbox Advanced Technology Group to support the game developers. The ATG team collectively had made hundreds of games, so we were great at translating game developer concerns into changes at Microsoft. We did whatever it took, and this focus on developers, it was a game changer because we attacked one of Sony's biggest weaknesses. They did not have great developer tools or support or documentation.
Games sell consoles, and so in order to sell consoles,
And just to jump in here to give Sony some credit here, this is where XDev actually comes in, and this is why Sony invested quite a lot in XDev, because this is basically what came of this. This is an area that Sony was lacking in, and they invested quite a lot into making sure that was an area they were no longer lacking in. So credit to Sony where it's due. You know, they did plug that hole eventually.
Had to win the hearts and minds of the developers.
I could see that Xbox had a chance of succeeding. We were listening to developers and we were building exclusive, high-quality first-party titles. We knew that platform adoption requires proof. People don't buy your new hardware if there's no reason to. Definitely a problem for the new Xbox handheld. And it worked. By 2012, Xbox was a multi-billion-dollar business, and they were a true player in the living room. Fast forward, and here we are. It's 1 year from the 25th anniversary of the Xbox, and it looks like they're abandoning pretty much everything that made the Xbox brand great in the first place.
That is again true, right? What made Xbox Xbox at the end of the day, that identity aspect of Xbox is gone. I mean, and I think, you know, ever since the Xbox One era, that's been true. There's been no real comeback for this. There's been no way for them to really reinvigorate it. They did have a chance with, you know, when they bought ABK and ZeniMax to make those games exclusive. And right now, I think if those games were exclusive, the likes of COD and everything else, I think people would have pivoted from PlayStation to Xbox. But they are extremely lucky, or unfortunate, I guess, for Sony's lucky, Microsoft unfortunate, that the FTC 100% backed Sony in this situation. And whether, you know, they had Sony in the pocket or whatever it was, it's irrelevant at this point. But the FTC in the end won. And the pivot that you're seeing now, in my personal opinion, was forced upon them by the FTC, because the FTC would not let the merger go through if any of the games were going to be true exclusives. And at that point, if your games are going to be multiplayer anyway, just screw it. Just make everything multiplayer at that point. You're spending $80 billion and you're going to, you know, manufacture games on your rival's platform and be a joke to the industry. So the FTC, Lena Khan, in the end, did win. Whether people want to acknowledge that or not is irrelevant. The fact is, they got what they wanted, and that was to dismantle Xbox as a brand. And they did it. And what she's saying here, that the brand is no longer the same, is true. It's not. But it doesn't mean that the word Xbox means nothing. And at the end of the day, it still has a synonymous, you know, weight to it in terms of just pure gaming. So if you go out to the average person in the street and say, do you know what an Xbox is? They're going to tell you it's a console. It's just like saying, if you go to an average person and ask them, what is Dyson good for? Most of them are going to tell you it's a Hoover. But as I recently found out, they do other stuff as well, which I didn't know, and it blew my mind. But I would never in a million years thought that they did like hair straightener products. I mean, it kind of makes sense with what Dyson is, but you get the point I'm making. So, you know, the FTC had a huge hand to play in this. And it's crazy how no one really points that out. And I know people say Microsoft beat the FTC, but they didn't. They may have won overall, you know, the deal went through and the case is dropped. But ultimately, the FTC won because they made Microsoft not only pivot what they were doing, but they forced them to put all their games everywhere. And during those 2 years, Microsoft made no attempt to show their strength in any way, shape, or form in order to push this deal through. So the FTC, the CMA, they got what they wanted. They stripped them of their cloud rights. They stripped them of exclusivity. You know, they left Microsoft, but they basically said, all right, Microsoft, you can buy this 80 billion corporation, but you're not really getting any benefit out of it. None at all. I mean, you can't even put exclusive content into the game you are making. That's how much we are basically shackling you. We know Sony has been doing this for years, and we're perfectly okay with that. But if you want to do it, we are going to stop you from doing it. And so you can clearly see that after everything, the FTC really did, you know, change Microsoft's direction.
Let's start with the handheld announcement. I've seen mixed reactions, and that has me really puzzled because I don't see any reason why anyone would buy this piece of hardware. Just like the original Xbox, it's built on Windows, a slimmed down version of Windows, but it's still Windows. So this isn't something new. And let me just admit my bias here. I don't like Windows. When I left Microsoft, I installed Linux on all of my personal systems.
I said there was some bias at the beginning of the video, didn't I? I said it. I told you so. It was obvious straight from the get-go. But anyway, I still like her coverage.
And I never looked back. Of course, as many pointed out after PewDiePie did the same thing, Windows is still needed for some games, so I created a dual boot machine for those cases. Incidentally, this line, the freedom of Windows. Freedom? Windows 11 is forcing you to have separate accounts so they can track everything you do. Doesn't feel very free. And they are leaving a lot of their Windows 10 users behind because they require a chip to be installed on the motherboard in order for you to upgrade.
I'm going to be real with you. My motherboard that my kid is using, my old one, which is about 10 to 12 years old, has that chip. Now, if you're going to cry about people that have a 30-year-old PC, that's on you, man. That's on you. They need to upgrade. You know, if they're running on Pentium 1 PCs, that's on them, man. Seriously. People need to move with the times. This is a complete BS take. And that's not like her, but again, she is biased, as she openly said, and she is going to dog on Microsoft. At least now you can see why she's going to dog on Microsoft. And in all honesty, it kind of removes a lot of what she says in credence, because now that is always, everything she says now that's negative, that will always play a part in it. And it's a shame. I don't think she should have said that. I think it really contaminated the video. It really, made it just, well, let's just see.
Microsoft, you do you, but freedom is literally the last thing I would use to describe the Windows operating system. So given the Xbox was already built on Windows, I don't see that that's really a big selling point. But that's okay, because it's really about the games.
Well, the other thing is, the S2 chip is really powerful. How powerful? We don't really have the true benchmarks, but we've seen stuff that it can run at really good settings for a handheld, and that's great. The key here will be if they actually, and this is what everyone is assuming and they're kind of insinuating but not fully committing to, will this handheld eventually be able to play through, whether it's later updates of back compat or whatever it is, will it be able to play my traditional Xbox games, whether it's through emulation or not? Obviously, you need a super powerful machine to do that, but there are a number of games that just aren't on Play Anywhere or on Game Pass that I've personally got, that I've bought, that won't work on this device. And so this is the confusion when you see people saying this is an Xbox, this is not an Xbox. But if we go back to the very beginning of the video where she talked about Microsoft's full commitment to Game Pass and Play Anywhere, and that is what Xbox is to them, then by that definition, which she just created, this is an Xbox.
Will it be Halo? Will it be the new Gears? Is there going to be a game so compelling that it drives me to adopt this new handheld? Well, here's the problem. Xbox doesn't do exclusives anymore. Even if Xbox delivers a crazy great game, Xbox Anywhere means that I can play that game on any platform. I can play it on Xbox or PC. I may even be able to play it on the PS5 or the Switch. So why would I buy the ROG Ally?
Because like all things, it's an enthusiast product. It's a handheld PC. It's not just going to be for Xbox, right? It's not just a Xbox device. It can play PC games as well. And it is mobile. Your Switch cannot play PC games on the go. Your Switch cannot play everything that is on Xbox on the go. It just cannot do this. So that's a nonsensical comment. This device isn't for everyone. This device isn't for mainstream. It's not going to be cheap. These devices are for people that, want to play mobile and have the disposable income to be able to invest in something like this. I don't see these devices selling the same way that a Switch does. It's really that simple. This device isn't designed for mass market. It's a niche product. So that's that statement again. Why would I buy this? If you want to buy it, you will buy it. If you don't want to buy it and you don't have a need for it, you're not going to buy it, right? If you're the type of person that goes to buy a car and says, right, I just want to get from A to B, and you see a car for 20 grand, and then you see another car for 550 grand, you're going to buy the 20 grand one because why do I need the 550 grand one for? Well, this is basically the same thing. If you want it, it's a niche product, you are going to buy it. So that statement, again, doesn't make any sense to me.
And of course, delivering a killer game.
And again, it just goes back to the whole agenda thing, right? Because of her bias towards Microsoft and Windows. And regardless, this is why I said I wish she never made that statement, because she's not following through with an alternative perspective. It's just the view of why should I buy it? Well, if it's not for you, you're not going to buy it. Not everyone likes the Nintendo games, but they're not going to buy it. Now, the exclusive argument, yes, that is that is a valid point. And let's just say they released an exclusive game that would only work on this Ally, which is impossible. But let's say they did, that might be a selling point. But why would you do that? Why would Microsoft do that? There's literally no incentive for them to do that.
Game in a reasonable time frame isn't something Xbox is particularly good at right now. During the showcase, there were several games still in development that weren't even mentioned, like State of Decay 3, Perfect Dark, and Fable. And many of these games have been in development over 5.
Fable was mentioned right at the end of the show. It's coming 2026. So it was mentioned, and it's going to be at the Dev Direct in January, most likely. That's where they're going to show it. You see where I'm going with this?
Years. There is only one reason these games are behind. It's because Xbox has lost their culture of shipping at scale. They don't have the people or the process in place that can ship. And it's a shame because they used to do better than anyone in the business.
And yet they've shipped more games this year than any other company out there, any other publisher, any other first-party studio. They have shipped more games this year than anyone. In fact, last year they shipped more games than any other studio or publisher. So again, I'm sorry, but this just doesn't make sense to me.
Recently, Microsoft announced that they were going to be doing layoffs. A lot of people are speculating that it's going to be the sales division, but I'm not so sure. I think that if I was working on one of the games that didn't make the showcase, or if I was in the Xbox hardware team, I would be worried. So there isn't going to be any killer game that drives me to buy this handheld. And that's okay, right? Because Xbox Anywhere means that I'm going to be able to play all my Xbox games and PC games on my handheld. And that right there could be a big selling point. Except it looks like that might not be the case. There's been some confusion on this point, but from what I can tell, Pure Xbox is correct. You won't be able to play native Xbox games, only native PC games.
Correct. Now, the plan is to get those games working via emulation once the new UI is working, but that is not something that's going to be available right now. Anyone that says that they're going to be able to play native Xbox games is not true. But then again, I have to ask the question, why would you want to play the native Xbox Series X version of Halo when you could play the native PC version of Halo? They are both the same, except one just will perform better. Why would you want to do that? One will provide you with way more options to be able to play your games at a higher frame rate than the other one. Why would you want to do that?
This isn't great, in my opinion. If Xbox Anywhere means I should be able to play all my games on the handheld device, then darn it, I want to play all of my games, not just my PC games. Further on in the article, they say, let's hope we might get native console games in the future, but it's not something we're expecting right now. Think of the ROG Xbox Ally as a Windows 11 gaming PC with Xbox-specific features, because that's basically what it is. If you don't have a big budget, why not just buy a PC? They're not that expensive if you build it yourself, and you'll have Windows 11, just like the handheld, and you'll be able to play all of your PC games.
So, Laura, how am I going to play, if I want to play my games on a train? How am I going to take my PC on a train? Or maybe I want to play it on a flight when I'm going to another country. How am I going to drag my PC along and plug it into any power outlet on the thing? Or maybe my, PC is currently being in my, my monitor or TV is in use, and I want a game because, I've got kids. How am I going to play that gaming PC without a display? Maybe I just go outside to the park and I bring my, I want to sit there, enjoy the sun, maybe chill out, play a bit of games, or go for a picnic with the family, whatever, right? We've seen so many people with the PlayStation Portal saying, oh, I'm like 10,000 miles away and I'm still gaming on my Portal. So it's the same problem. How are you going to lumber that PC on the back of you with a generator? This is the dumbest argument I've seen so far. Literally the dumbest argument from her I've seen. And I'm sorry, this just is silly. This is silly. The handheld market and the desktop market are two completely different markets. And trying to use them together is you just trying to show, you're just trying to force that irrelevance on there when you perfectly well know that this is a different market. It's not designed or, built for that audience. Now, if they want to go and buy it, it's great. It's an alternative, but it's its audience is those that want to game mobile. Now, if you can game mobile, I guess you can buy a laptop for $2,000. That would work as well, but you still need a power outlet. Once you're back, well, I guess you can run on batteries for 2 hours. You get a power bank as well. So yeah, maybe carrying a big laptop out in public might be your cup of tea, but most people don't want to do that. Not in this day and age. So this has a market. It's just it's designed and made for a niche audience. And the fact that you're trying to kind of capitulate this into, oh, well, if I've got a gaming PC, why do I need this? That's just being obtuse at best.
If you want a handheld, skip the PC and buy a Steam Deck or some of the other handhelds.
See, again, why would I want a Steam Deck? I have a Steam Deck and I can't run games that I play regularly on there. It literally doesn't allow me to play games, and Proton doesn't always work. You cannot always rely on Proton. So this is clearly telling you to go buy, she's literally telling you to go buy a handheld that will potentially not play the games you want to play. You want to play native Game Pass on there as well? That's not possible either. So she's literally telling you to go buy a product that will not play potentially the games you want to play because I guess she likes Steam better.
With SteamOS on them. It's built on Linux, so no Windows 11, and it's cheap compared to most of the handhelds out there. And
okay, that is the only aspect of this that I will say that she is right on. The Steam Deck is dirt cheap. It's like 350 quid. That thing is dirt cheap. And then you can, open the backup and replace the hard drive yourself if you want with the DF card, or you can actually buy modded kits now that allow you to install NVMe cards, which are way cheaper than the CF cards. So you can do that as well. So, you're getting a lot of memory back, and, it's a DIY job, but it's not difficult. So that aspect, I will 100% agree with. If you're looking for a cheap PC handheld, the Steam Deck is the way to go. Nothing beats it on price. Unless the ROG Ally, the current one right now, is on sale. I think it's pretty much at the same price. Then that's a better deal.
that brings up one other possibility to consider. Maybe it's price. Maybe Xbox and Asus are going to undercut the market by making this a very inexpensive handheld. I personally don't think this is likely to happen. Remember, the Xbox ROG Ally is essentially a reskin of an existing product. Their cheapest version of the ROG Ally is around $600. I assume that both Xbox and Asus don't want to lose a lot of money on this new device. Asus is great at hardware, and I'm sure they have already done the cost reduction on the handheld. You see, with hardware, the post-launch plans are almost more important than building the initial product.
See, she says that, but then you've got the Meta Quest, right? The Meta Quest 3S Xbox edition. And the Meta Quest 3 is actually 3S is actually, I think it's $289. Or I think it's like £279, right? And then you look at how much the Xbox edition is, and it's basically $379, which is £100 more expensive. But in return, you get a custom themed headset and controllers. You get a £70 controller, so that's already 70 quid. You get the Elite strap, which is roughly about 70 quid in itself, so that's £140. And then you get 3 months of Game Pass, which is roughly about £45 if you're buying at retail. So you're looking, give or take, 500 quid worth of stuff that is being priced down at 379, and clearly that's being subsidized, right? So it's not impossible for them to do it. And they've clearly shown that they are willing to work with these companies like Meta, like Asus, and maybe Microsoft is taking the brunt of the hit. But they're willing to do it to get these devices into more people's hands so they can get onto Game Pass, which is the ultimate goal. So again, there's precedence now where they have done it with third-party manufacturing companies. So to say that it's very unlikely, it's just not true. It's a possibility that this is the way it's going to go. Now, how much are they going to undercut it by is going to be interesting if they do. Personally, I think it's going to remain at the £800 price tag, just like the Ally X. And then the Xbox Ally is going to replace the ROG. Or maybe you're going to have the ROG, then the Xbox Ally, and then the Xbox Ally X as the free-tier system. They'll probably keep the ROG because it just works.
Because in hardware, the game is price reduction of all of the parts, because then you can make a profit in years 2, 3, and 4 of your console. The ROG Ally has already been through this process, so it's very unlikely the price is going to be the thing that they will be able to lower. It's unlikely to be the thing that brings gamers to buying the handheld.
No, the price isn't going to be what brings gamers to buy the handheld. The thing that's going to bring people to buy the handheld is whether they want it or not. It's really that simple. This isn't designed for the mass public. And I think this is where she's having a real hard time, differentiating. She thinks that this product is supposed to sell the same way as consoles do. The PSP didn't sell the same way as the PlayStation 2 or 3, was it? The PS Vita didn't sell the same way. So where is the negativity on that? I think the PS Vita or the PSP sold like, 10, 15 million overall, compared to their console counterparts, which sold 100, 150 million. And this can do a lot more than what they did. So, where is this comparison coming from? And again, I go back to the point of where she said she's biased. I really wish she didn't say that, but a lot of this now is beginning to sound like that. And it's a damn shame. Because anyone with common sense is going to tell you that this device is not for everyone. It's a niche product. It's not designed for the mass public. It's just not.
The Xbox Anywhere message sounds great on the surface, but in reality, it's just marketing. It's style with no substance.
And that's bollocks as well. And I'm just going to openly say it at this point, because the fact that I can play my games on my Xbox, on my Steam Deck through xCloud or any other device I've got, or through my PC, that single purchase entitlement to be able to play it across my devices is valuable. It's not just PR, and it has benefited me as a person, as an individual, a lot. It has also saved me a lot of money. It means that I don't have to buy those games twice or 3 times. I can just buy it once, and I am good to go whether I want to play it on my PC or my Xbox or my handheld devices. So, no, it isn't just PR. Again, why?
Unfortunately, I don't think marketing's going to be enough. There's literally no reason to buy this handheld. Obviously, as one of the founding members of the Xbox team, I'm not pleased with where things are today. I don't love watching all of the value that I helped create slowly get eroded away.
But you don't like Windows and you don't like Microsoft, so why do you care? And again, the device isn't for everyone. Who's going to buy the device? If I can get the money, I'm going to buy the device.
I'm sad because from my perspective, it looks like Xbox has no desire or literally can't ship hardware anymore. So this partnership.
If you turn around and tell people that you can play Xbox anywhere, you start putting your games on every other platform, it's quite obvious that they don't care where you play your games. And that is going to have a direct, impact on shifting your consoles. If you do not care for Game Pass, then you're probably not going to get an Xbox over a PlayStation. It's really that simple. I don't understand why this logic seems to elude people. Microsoft has been crying that no console is required and has been their main thing for pretty much most of last year and a lot of this year. No console required. Play your games anywhere. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So, and now they're doing, if you buy your games, you can play it on the cloud. So as long as I buy the game, I don't need an Xbox. I can play it on my phone. These are all going to have a real impact on selling the hardware. I just don't understand where this animosity is coming, or this kind of, I won't say it's obvious where the animosity is coming from, but where this thought process is coming from, that Microsoft is still very keen on selling hardware. They will provide a hardware because at the end of the day, the 30 million or 40 million people that are on Xbox right now who are on Game Pass will probably upgrade to the next generation Xbox. But that means that they're also going to take Game Pass with them. And that's a lot of money. We're talking like, $6 billion here. You expect them to throw that away? That's why the console exists. But Microsoft has made it perfectly clear that you don't need a console to play these games. You literally don't need an Xbox, a console, or anything to play these games. Your tablet can run these games through xCloud. Sign up to Game Pass and you're good to go. So that notion where Microsoft can't sell consoles, it's not about can't sell consoles. They've made it so the console is unsellable. They've made it so there are way more options now for you to play those games. If these games were exclusive, like dead on exclusive, and the FTC allowed, didn't get in the way of that exclusivity, then you would have found a different, thing here. But right now, Microsoft has picked a lane and they're saying you want to play it on the home console? Fine, we've got you covered. You want to play it on a handheld? We've got you covered. You want to play on VR? We've got you covered. You want to play it on your PC, your laptop, your tablet, your phone? We've got you covered. So for the average person who can't afford a console but can muster enough money to buy the subscription, why should they buy the console when they could just play the games on their tablet? You've got services like GeForce Now, which for I think it's like what, $60 every $80 every 6 months, allows you to go and pretty much play games on a 4080, soon to be a 5080 spec PC rig if you buy the top end model, or you can go for the mid-tier model, which is way cheaper. And you can do that and still get like really good gaming, and you can go and buy all your games if that's what you want to do, which again, proving that you don't really need a PC to play your games. Why buy a PC when you've got GeForce Now? Why buy a PC when you've got Boosteroid? If gaming on PC is all you care about, and you just want to be able to play those games on the best settings, why buy a PC? There are cloud services out there that are far cheaper overall that will do the service for you. So why aren't you talking about that? Because that doesn't get as much attention now, does it?
Is about a slow exit from the hardware business completely. Personally, I think Xbox hardware is dead.
I mean, the next generation Xbox hardware will probably be the last one. That much is clear in my opinion. I think it will be the last one before they transition fully to PC. I think that's a given. But the fact that AMD is continuing to invest means that Xbox is far from dead. And the reality is, the only other, everyone keeps saying, everyone has said Xbox is dead since 2016. And yet 10 years later, here we are, and they're still saying the same thing. I mean, a broken clock is right twice, at least twice a day, right? So just because people are saying, and you'll see it, right? In 5, 6, 10 years time, when eventually Xbox transitions to PC, everyone's gonna be like, see, I told you, I've been saying it for 20 years. And it's like, are you this stupid? Are you this dumb? But look, she's clearly showing you a picture of AMD Ryzen AI on for the next generation Xbox. So like, what are we even talking about? Why would AMD invest in a dead platform? Do you think AMD doesn't like money?
The plan appears to be to just drive everybody to Game Pass. And let's be clear, it has a lot of value. I'm thinking that might be why they decided to charge $80 for Outer Worlds 2. The developers have been clear that they didn't make that decision. And here's the thing, maybe it will work. Xbox has a deep portfolio. The remake of Oblivion was obviously a huge success, and they can continue to outsource that work to external companies and make a lot of money releasing their older games. Older games from an era when Xbox knew how to build them. But what is the long-term plan? Where are the new hits? What will make people care about the Xbox 25 years from now?
25 years from now, there ain't going to be a PlayStation or an Xbox. What are you even talking about, lady?
I was excited to see Clockwork Evolution in the showcase.
Everything's going to be a PC.
Will something like that be enough? Do they have more? Next year marks the 25th anniversary of the Xbox, and I'm sure that they will have some big announcements and plans for honoring the milestone. Maybe next year is the year. Maybe next year is the year that the fog will clear and all of us will see the beauty in these latest announcements. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If you like this video, you might be interested in another video I did called Why Xbox Lost.
So, really good video. I actually have a lot of respect for Laura. I've seen a ton of her videos, and she's really good, and she breaks down stuff systematically. There's a lot of stuff in here that I don't agree with, and you saw that throughout the video. But make this be no discredit to her. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful analyst, and she knows what she's talking about. I'm gonna have a link to her channel in the description below, so please go, and if you care about like really cool, insightful videos that actually have a lot of research and stuff put into it and put together that are genuinely really good and thought out, definitely check those videos out. But yeah, in this video, I'm sorry, Laura, I just couldn't agree with the majority of the things. There were some points that I did agree, and they were good, and they were fine, but I also think that there was some bias there, and some things weren't really clearly thought out, because thinking that an $800 handheld PC console is going to be for everyone is just, no, it's not. And anyone will tell you that, right? It's just not. And to try and compare a handheld PC to a desktop PC, and why people would want a handheld in the first place, and say that there's no reason for it, is ludicrous in itself, because it's aimed at a different audience for different use cases. A PC you're not taking out of the house. There is no use case for that. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this video. I know it's been a long one, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.